treatment of the people. Like, I was treated like this, like crap, and so will you. There's an order you have to go through, and you have to go through this beat up and abuse before you can become. But here's the thing, nobody's sticking around for this anymore.
Wow, I can just concentrate on one thing and I can become an expert at this, and I can share my knowledge, and I can go educate on these things, and that was just a brand new world to me. I didn't enjoy what I was doing, sitting at my desk all the day, not knowing really what was going on, and I thought, hey, I'm 62 years old now, so when I started out of college, I was making $22,000, which was not bad, but my friends who were in sales were making $30,000, so that was like huge money. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go into sales. So I did that for a year and really realized that sales is not my thing.
All right, we got another episode right here today. I got Randy Crabtree. Randy, you are a legend in the profession. I know you don't believe it, but I'm telling you, as someone who has seen you speak, who has really felt like I see your vision about culture, about the profession, about everything you've built up to this point. When you were on stage, I really connected with what you were saying. And so having you on this podcast is amazing. Love to start off by just, who are you? You know, what's your story, and tell us about yourself in under 1 minute. Go.
Under 1 minute? There's no way I can do that.
I'm just kidding.
First off, thank you for that introduction. And it's funny. I just feel like I have a passion for the profession, and it's easy to go talk about it. So, so a little background on me. You really want me to do that? I can do that.
Yeah.
So I am a CPA. CPA was my third career. First two were very short. I was a computer programmer for about a year, which was my undergrad degree. I thought I didn't enjoy what I was doing, sitting at my desk all the day, not knowing really what was going on. And I thought, hey, I'm 62 years old now. So when I started out of college, I was making $22,000, which was not bad. But my friends who were in sales were making $30,000. So that was like huge money. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go into sales. So I did that for a year and really realized that sales is not my thing. I learned a lot. I learned that, one, that I didn't even realize I learned. I said, if you are going to sell something, you got to be passionate about it, because I wasn't passionate about what I was doing. And so that's what I did. And then I went back to school full time, got enough hours to take the CPA exam, took the exam, and here I am today.
All right, that was pretty good. And I'm going to tell you, that was under 1 minute.
Right,
I was counting them. But no, that's an interesting story, and I want to dive down a little bit, kind of explore that, because roads that lead to accounting are interesting to me.
Yep.
Because many times, especially recently, with a lot of the pipeline problems, it's roads leading out of accounting, or quite frankly, people choosing, honestly, computer science.
Yeah.
Over accounting.
IT. Yep.
IT, and it's interesting that you went in that route in the 80s, which is fascinating, because it was such a evolving technology. But let me go into the sales part. I'm very curious about that.
Sure.
What were you selling, or what were you trying to sell?
Food. I was a worker for a food broker, so we were like a manufacturer's rep for food manufacturers, and we'd go sell to distributors, basically, or even jobbers, with the trucks that would go out and serve stuff. So it was that type of thing. It was actually my uncle's company.
Okay.
And my aunt was working there, my mom was working there. Obviously, my uncle had started it, and I had told them I was thinking about getting into sales, and he said, "Hey, you wanna come here?" And hey, sure, let's give this a try. So yeah, it was food.
So in comparison to that 22,000 that you were offered, and started your career with from computer science, where did you end up doing better? Did you end up getting closer to that 30,000 that the person you knew did?
I think I was short of that. I'm thinking, but I think I got a raise. I think I was more like 25. Plus, then there was incentives that I was so bad at it, I don't think I hit any incentives. So 25 was probably about the number.
All right, that's fair. So take me through the evolution of you go from there. You go from sales. You figure, all right, I'm not good at that. I don't really like computer science either. How did you discover accounting? Were you somehow involved in that in your uncle's company?
Yeah, no, I wasn't. It was actually just I had a light bulb moment. Back up a little bit. Undergrad. I mean, I'm a math guy, and
Okay.
people always think math and accounting go together, which they don't necessarily have to. But I actually probably have enough math hours for a math minor. It's just two of my classes were at a community college. I don't think I ever transferred them over. So technically, I think I should have a math minor, but I had one undergrad accounting class, and it was like a dead end class. And so I took it, and I
Yeah.
remember really enjoying it, but I was going to be a computer programmer, so I never really paid attention to that. And then after two unsuccessful careers in a short time, 2.5 years maybe,
Yeah.
I was driving down North Avenue in Chicago, and this is a long time ago. I had this aha moment. I pulled off the side of the road, and this is where I'm saying it was a long time ago. Got into a phone booth, and called my wife, and said, "Hey, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to go back to school full time. I'm going to be a CPA, and I'm going to work for someone else for 4 years, and then I'm going to start my own firm." I mean, this all came in this just moment.
Just that drive.
Yeah, and she was probably like, "We'll talk." And I know this is not probably. This is what she said. "We'll talk when we get home." But even to back up further, what put that in my mind was it was the year that we got married. So this was, I think, in May. After I was thinking about in May. It may have been April.
Yeah.
But I had just done our own tax return.
Oh, okay.
I had never done my tax return. My dad had always done it, growing up. And so I had just done our tax return, and I'm doing this, and I'm like, this is fun. I like taxes.
All right.
And so that, I think, stuck in my head, and that's what really, it was an aha moment that was built up over the last month after I realized that taxes are fun to me.
Yeah, they are.
And so that's what did it. So ended up, I got home, we talked. If this was May, we're just gonna go with that. We're gonna pretend that that's true because I think it's close to May. I pretty much quit my job. Shortly after that, went back to school full time. Started with the summer semester, so I did a summer, fall, and winter, or however you do those. Summer, winter, spring. I think that's the semesters probably.
Yeah. Close
and
enough.
got enough hours, and never completed my master's in accounting, but again, got enough hours to take the exam, so I took the exam, passed it 2 times.
That's awesome. As you were telling me the story about pulling over on the side of the road and calling your wife with
Yep.
I have this envision, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, is that over the course since then, you've had many a times
Yeah.
where you've probably told your wife, I had this idea. All right, I got this idea. I got this idea.
Yeah.
And the reason I say this is because I do the same thing here
Yes.
with my wife all the time. And I'm like, okay, I got this crazy idea. And she's just like, all right, what is it this time? So let's hear it. And I got this vibe that pull over to the side of the road and call with this wild
Yes.
idea. It was not the first time, and certainly not the last time since then.
No.
Am I right?
No, you are spot on. I never even thought about that way. I think she's at the point now, like, okay, whatever. You're going to do what you want, so go do it. But like Trimerit was the same thing. It was when I started that 17 years ago, almost 18 years ago now. Same thing. Hey, I'm going to start an R&D tax credit company, and she probably had no idea what R&D tax credits were, and I probably barely did at the time, but that's what we did.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we'll build up to that, but
Yep.
I'll take it. We'll go now. So you finish up the degree. You're all excited for being an accountant, a CPA, getting into the profession. You get into the profession. You start your job. You told me you had about 2 firms. Can you tell me about that initial, I'm going to guess it was a shock, between what you maybe expected and what it turned out to be as far as in public accounting working for others?
Yeah, so it was. There's 2 different stories there. The first one is the first firm I went to work for, small firm, and I specifically went to a small firm because my plan was, as I said, in the aha moment, I'm going to start my own firm in 4 years. And I really, as a side note, I think I've been an entrepreneur at heart my whole life. I started my first business at age 16.
Nice.
And so it wasn't, and even while I was, going through these first two careers, I was trying to figure out if I could, start a sandwich shop or, a restaurant or all this stuff. I had all these crazy ideas, which I knew probably weren't going to go anywhere, but I always had that. So the first firm I went to, small firm, 2 partners, probably 6 people overall.
Okay.
And it was a great experience. Honestly, I don't remember thinking, tax season's crazy or anything like that, because I was excited. I was learning. Believe me, my geekiness would show through, but taxes, this is cool. We did some audits too. That wasn't cool,
No.
for me at least. We're doing audits of car dealerships.
Yeah.
I was never been, people, I'm going to go on a tangent here because I can't help myself.
Go for it.
People will say, "Oh, you're an accountant," and I'll say, "Well, I'm actually not. I'm a CPA, but I'm a tax person." That in my mind, accounting is one way. I'm tax.
Yeah.
And so when I was there and learning tax and all this, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I do remember having a little bit like, okay, we have to come in on Saturdays. Why is that? And we would only do half a days on Saturday. But there were rules about that. That's something we could talk about later because I'm not a big rules guy.
Yeah.
And so this first firm, I really did enjoy. I enjoyed the people, which is a big thing. The people were great. And then after 2 years, because I thought I needed more experience, I got to go get another job. Even though I loved it there, I loved the people, I got to go see how everybody else is doing this just to make sure I'm not missing something. And if you don't mind, I'll go into that story because this is pretty, in me, it's really shaped me a lot, I think. I went to the second firm, and this is where it was like the holy crap, what is this? Started sinking in.
I feel you.
Because I went to another firm, 3 partners in this firm, another small firm, again, probably 6 or 7 people. But the 3 partners were all family members, dad and 2 sons, which could be different.
I can sense where it's going. But
Yeah, and the sons were decent, and the dad was very, 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 very old school. You see people old school now. He was like way old school compared to some things we see today. And I'll tell a quick story. So he and I actually were out at an audit of a car dealership. We were at and that's one reason I got that job, because they were auditing car dealerships, and I should have thought, I don't like audit, I shouldn't take this job, but I didn't think that. And so he and I were and it was at the headquarters. So we were in downtown Chicago at this headquarters of this car dealership. And we finished up at 6 o'clock at night. This is January, I think. 6 o'clock, we finished. We're going to go back to the office because it's tax season. You have to go back to the office. That was the rules. And it was about 5 blocks away from where we were. So I start walking, and I see him, catch a cab. And he looks at me, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to walk back to the office. I need some fresh air." And honestly, he, with this like super mad, crazy face, looked at me, and I won't swear, but he did. He said, "Get in the effing cab now." And I was just in shock. I mean, I don't take to managing in general, micromanaging. I'm hard to manage, and that was just, to me, and I know people have been through a lot worse, but to me, this was like insane. How could somebody treat me like this?
Yep.
I'm just a billable hour. I'm not a person. Yeah. And so to finish up, I went to the office that night then, and I'm just in shock sitting at my desk. It literally was. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what I should do. Went home that night. I'll try to make it a shorter story so that we don't go 2 hours today.
It's all good.
I went home that night, talked to my wife again. Here's what I'm thinking of doing, because I had another plan. I went to the office the next day, organized my desk, put notes on all my files, left everything nice and clean. Lunchtime came. I left for lunch, got on a train, went home, called one of the other partners and said, "Hey, just so you know, I can't deal with your dad. I'm not coming back. I left everything organized, all the notes on my files. If you have any questions, reach out to me, but I just can't deal with him." and
Wow.
that was it. Yeah.
How long was that? So that was January. How long was that after you joined? Was this like an immediate thing?
Yeah, I think I joined shortly after October 15th. So I think,
Okay.
I think it was October that I joined. So I got through November, December. So we're about 2.5 months in at that point.
Wow. I can go into a rabbit hole of stories just like yours
Yeah.
that I've gone through, worse or not worse, or whichever it is. The short version of all of that is the profession to this day is plagued with folks that you just described.
Unfortunately, I see that.
People that, for various reasons, I think a lot of it stems from this is how I've been, this is how my trajectory, my career has been,
It's the
and
Sally method. We've all been doing this forever, so we'll keep doing it.
exactly, and the treatment of the people, like I was treated like this, like crap, and so will you. There's an order you have to go through, and you have to go through this beat up and abuse before you can become. But here's the thing: nobody's sticking around for this anymore. No. Nobody's willing to put up with this anymore. I mean, that's why when I say you are legendary in the profession and you are someone to look up to, is that in the 80s or the 90s or whatever that was, you were already of that mindset.
Yep.
And when I talk to folks and over my career, all these partners who would treat me in that bad way, in the 80s and 90s, they were just following suit. They were just doing that same thing, taking the crap, saying nothing, certainly not leaving, and that's just what the expectation was. And now when people are seeing that in the profession and they're seeing people not take the crap, it's like a malfunction. And that's where this, in my opinion, is where this pipeline issue stems from. Beyond everything else.
I agree. Just what you were just saying. I have my cousin's father-in-law worked for Big Four.
Yeah.
And he's, late 70s, 80s now. And I was at a party recently, a birthday party for my aunt, and he was there. And he was telling me the stories of, Big Four, him growing up in there, and how, he had to retire, early, which was late 50s maybe, because he was burnt out for 35 years. And he still, when talking to him, I felt like he had PTSD still from the accounting profession, and he's been retired for 30 plus years. It's crazy what people will put up with because they think they have to.
I can't even say it any better than you just did, but I've seen it time and time again show up, and I've been to 7 firms before going out on my own.
Yep.
I tried. I really was like, okay, this is not it. This is gonna be it.
Yep.
Hey, so I had this crazy idea. This is my wife. To my wife. I'm gonna quit. I think I'm gonna go to a different place because I feel like they're gonna treat me better. I feel like it's gonna be different. And this conversation was on repeat.
Wow.
And I kid you not, I had this one stint of 6 years where it was every year and a half.
Oh, really?
It was 6 months of honeymoon phase, 6 months of what is happening, I don't know about this, and 6 months of just anger. And I'm not, just like you, I'm not very employable in the sense that, I'm like this, man. When something, I'm not happy about something, I'm not sitting there quietly. But to your point about people taking it for years and years, I mean, the stories honestly just made me sad. I quit this one particular firm that shall remain unnamed, but I quit this firm because the abuse there was just next level. Like everything was yelling and whatever. And I knew this particular senior manager who was also being yelled at constantly.
Yeah.
She was told she cannot take time off, cannot go on vacation at certain times, cannot do this and that, and prioritize this job over your family. Yeah, this is insane. And then they just continued on and kept coming into work. 15, 20 years, something like that she was there for. And I'm like, man, like putting up with that is mind blowing to me. But, and I think it goes back to the value that all of us assign to ourselves. And some people just carry on because that's what they think that they're expected to do to make it to this glorious holy grail of partnership.
Yep.
And other people just are scared to make a move.
Yeah, it's. I think that's it. I think it's a lot of old school thinking though too, because something you just said. You just feel like you have to put up with this. I was doing a presentation recently outside of our profession. This was actually for the construction industry, and I was talking about culture and work-life balance, and I had a couple in this presentation that owned a construction company, and they were both in their 70s at this point, and were pretty much done. Their kids were taking over. But they were like, what is this work-life balance stuff? We grew up, we just worked, and then we had a life when we retired. And I'm like, no, that's not the way it has to be. You just think that because that's what happened before you and before you and before you, and you can do things different. So, yeah. And actually, I want to finish. Sorry, I'm going back to that story real quick.
Yeah.
When I left that firm, because this is the cool part. I left that firm, no job. The next day, I called the firm that I had left, the two partners I liked, the place I really enjoyed, and I just told them, hey, I just want to let you know I left that other job, and probably told them everything about it. And the very first thing they said is, do you want to come back here?
Wow.
And I'll be there tomorrow. I mean, and they were so opposite of this other firm I went to. They were about the people.
Amazing.
They were about your making sure that you had things, a life. And this was 35 years ago or longer now. And you had a life besides work. And and I'm still friends with those two partners to this day. So that's
amazing.
pretty cool. Yep.
When I hear there's not, to me, when the first thing that comes to my mind when you told me that was a firm that respected their time, that understood that there's stuff going on, that kind of thinking 35 or whatever years ago, I'm not good at math, but like all that time ago is so impressive because it's so like I love this stuff, right? Because it's anti what everybody else is doing.
Yep.
Even back then, I can only imagine the conversations back then that they maybe would have had with another partner of another firm, maybe even the firm you went to, say and the conversation will go something like, our staff worked, maybe 40, 50 hours this tax season, because we respect their time. You what?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you run your firm? It's, how do you even make money? How is it that they're not?
How do you call yourself a CPA?
Yeah. How do you call yourself a CPA? And let me, and I'm going to go ahead and go on a limb here and guess that in the other firm that you did not like, the one that you left, it was like a suit and tie kind of place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But possibly, again, correct me if I'm wrong, the place you did like was maybe even a little more casual.
Yeah.
Maybe just slacks.
I don't remember. I never liked wearing ties. I don't remember that we wore ties there ever. You and I are both in T-shirts today. This is my norm. So
yeah, likewise.
Yes, exactly. So I don't think we were in suit and ties at all. I don't think.
But that's that's the kind of stuff that fascinates me. That's the kind of stuff that speaks volumes. Even looking back at it, and that's why I love having these conversations. But what I will say is, the challenging part, and I'm assuming where you were going with that is that you ended up going back to that other firm.
I did go back and stayed about a year and a half, and then just had an opportunity to start my own firm. And telling those guys that I was going to do this was so hard. I mean, I was crying in this because I respected them so much and felt so grateful for what they had done for me.
Yeah.
And they honestly were happy for me, which is a trait. I don't know if they call that a trait, but that's something I tried to continue as I've employed people over the years. When someone leaves and they want to have a new opportunity, we celebrate that. And they did, and they actually asked me if I wanted to take a handful of clients with me, which were not, in my mind at the time, not C&D clients. They may have been. They were nice people, but I think the fees were probably not the greatest. But I was just so happy. I got revenue coming in, and they gave me some clients, and I don't think I even had to pay for them. They just let me take them. Yeah.
And that's where I was going with you. You kind of prefaced me on it and beat me to it. But I like that you're thinking ahead, because you also have your own podcast, so I feel like you connect that. But it's a hard when you go back to that firm that you love, and that's how these habits of never leaving form. And quite frankly, I don't even, it's not a bad thing. You went to a firm that you thoroughly enjoyed being at.
Yep.
I think if you didn't go out on your own, and we'll obviously get to that journey shortly, but you know, if
Sure.
you didn't go out on your own, you would have probably still been there,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
don't think I would have left, but
you know,
yes.
and creating a culture, doing the same stuff you're doing, you know, just in a place that respected you because they were so different at the time, which just goes to show that it's all about the mentality of the people, the partners there, that really creates the long-standing like kind of culture and all of this that's so important in our profession.
Yeah, Alan Shapiro and Les Olevsky. I want to put their names out there because they're amazing guys, and they.
Yes.
I'm trying not to take over your podcast here, but
It's okay.
when I first was named top 100 most influential people in accounting, which 2 years in a row now, which I'm very. It's a big deal to me because
Huge.
it makes you feel like people recognize that you're trying to have a positive impact on this profession.
Yeah.
But one of the very first things I did when that happened is I emailed the link to the announcement to them, and I said, "This is because of you guys. You guys, are the reason that I am where I am today," and thank them for that.
Got goosebumps, man. You know, because it's just so rare that, I mean, people have had impacts on me throughout my career, and very thankful to them, and you know, but the ability of those people to see and be like, celebrate, you know, aspiring Randy to go out on his own, to build things his own way, is really what shaped you into being different.
Yep.
In the profession. It's what shaped you into being like open to and willing to do these culture things, to do things differently. You know, nowadays it's easier, I think, for us, you know, kind of entrepreneurs, people who want to do things differently. Because yes, you know, most of firms, my experience, 7 firms, the same exact scenario over the same exact period of time, not much different, even no matter how much I thought that they were. But there's the internet now. There's all these other things that I can go on and see how people are doing. And quite frankly, which brings me to LinkedIn, which is how I found you, which is how I discovered you were in the top 100. And, you know, and then I got to see you in person at the Future Growth Forum. And that to me is like, you know, you see how you can do it differently. And so then you go. But to then, you know, be supported to build what you've built and all that is impressive, which is where I want to go now. So you're at this firm, you're a year and a half into it. What was that moment for you where you decided, all right, okay, this is it. I got to go. I got to do this thing on my own.
And it was almost like there was no decision to be made type of decision because my wife's uncle, who was a CPA, unfortunately he's passed now, but he was a CPA, and had his own firm, only him as a partner. He had a few employees. He was just buying another practice, small practice. I don't remember. Maybe it was at the time, you know, I think it was a couple $100,000 in revenue or something, not huge. But he was small buying this, and he was like, I just don't have the time to do all this new business. Randy, do you want to come in and be a partner in this new entity that I'm putting together?
Oh, okay.
And so that's what I did. And I remember this was November 1st of 1991.
Good memory.
Well, I don't remember why I remember that date, but I do. And I went in there, and right away there was red flags, not with my uncle-in-law, but with the firm that was being purchased. And there was a lot of things that the clients were great. There was just issues with going on with the whole purchase. And so honestly, what happened within, I think, maybe even before tax season ended, their whole deal fell apart.
Oh,
and I ended up resigning, and Kathy's uncle had no problem with me contacting any of the clients that that was there. So I resigned. So I was still not part of that process. And this was I had a bag phone, which was one of the very first cell phones. And I got in my car and I'm driving home and calling clients and just saying, hey, just so you know, I
Wow.
left this other firm. I'm starting my own. Would you be interested in coming with me? And I think by the time, it was probably a half-hour drive, I think by the time I got home, I had about maybe 60,000 in annual revenue, which was a very good base to start with. So it was nice.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to just side note this for a second with
Yeah.
you lied to me and you told me you were not good at sales, but clearly you're picking
When
up
you're
this.
passionate about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you're passionate about it, but when you pick up this phone and you're getting $60,000 in a half an hour, that's big. So those clients were clients you were able to reach out to from the deal that didn't go through?
Yes, the
Okay.
deal that fell apart. The deal
Okay.
actually had happened, and then there was just some. I don't want to go into what it
That's
was,
fine.
but because I'm guessing there's a statute of limitations, and unfortunately, one side of that deal is passed. I don't know
Yeah.
about the other side of the deal, but I do know the other side of that deal, and I haven't named names. It spent a little time in jail afterwards, so
Okay.
don't know if it was
Understood.
associated with this or not, but did. So
Got it.
yeah.
So you pick up, so the clients were great. You pick it up, $60,000 in revenue. Were those clients tax season only, or were they like a year-round kind of like bookkeeping and stuff?
It was bookkeeping and tax, both. It was all businesses, and
Okay.
we did everything for them. Even some of them probably payroll, which we probably shouldn't have been doing. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was all
Okay.
what we called back then was write up. I don't know if that word's even used anymore, but
It
that's
is.
what we were doing. Okay,
I just used it earlier today with the
nice.
write-up to get the taxes done
Yeah.
and all that. So you get 60,000. This is you're feeling like now with that 60 you can start jogging. Let's just say and feel like the firm's going to go places. What was next? A little bit of a shuffle, a little bit of I could feel it. Like a little bit bumpy road as you start.
Oh yeah.
What happens after that? What was your like approach? Was it mostly word of mouth? Did you do some advertising? How did you keep growing?
Yeah, this is where my lack of sales ability starts to show through then, because I never even asked for referrals. I did it all wrong from that standpoint. It was just basically word of mouth. Back then, there was even rules where CPAs could not advertise. So you could have like a Yellow Pages ad, but you
Oh,
couldn't do much more than that. And it was about the time those rules changed where it allowed advertising, but at that point in time, we didn't even have the mindset of advertising. It was like you put your Yellow Page ad out there, and then it's word of mouth, and don't go out of your way to try to get business. Let it come to you. If you do a good job, it'll come to you. And yeah, I was pretty bad at that. And we grew the firm still.
yeah.
I mean, probably 10 times what was the original amount before I ended up selling it. But that was over a long period of time, and that growth was okay, but not great.
Interesting. If you were to go back, hindsight, would you do anything different? Because I want to tell you right now, like I still think, and I don't do much advertising personally. I don't post on LinkedIn to get clients. I don't do anything to get clients necessarily,
Right.
except word of mouth travels. I still think to this day, the aspect of doing a good job, doing right by your clients, honestly, freaking picking up the phone nowadays and answering emails seems to be a differentiator. But I feel like, if you do a good job, you will keep getting referrals, and the organic growth is to me still relevant. But would you do anything differently?
So I'm always of the mindset, if I was going to say I'm happy with where I am now. I love where I am now. And I always look back and, yeah, could I have done things different? Sure. Would I have been maybe happier in the moment? Sure. But I want to be where I am today. And if I changed something and it kept me from doing what I'm doing right now, I wouldn't do anything different. So sure, learn from it. You can make changes along the way, but don't regret anything, and just make changes in the future. So yeah, I wouldn't go back and make any changes to anything I did.
Fair enough. And I think I'm with the same mindset. Everything has its reasons. Whether it was for the family to be more present and all
Yep.
that, and as you grow along it. Walk me through. I mean, so you get 60,000. You said you grew it 10 times. So you're probably around 600 gross, right around or something like that when
Yep.
you sold it.
Yep.
What was the composition of the firm? Did you have employees at the time?
Yeah, I mean, 6,000 we had, when we got to about 600,000, we had me, 2 full-time employees, a receptionist, and then a part-time employee. I'm pretty sure that was the makeup at that time. And this was in 2006 is when I sold that firm.
Okay.
And that's probably what we were at.
Gotcha. Leading up to that, in that 1991 to 2006, what did you feel like? Because a lot of the challenges, and the reason why I ask these questions is I want to take the perspective of somebody like myself who's got a firm, who's growing a firm, who's thinking about going into a firm, into business ownership. One of the biggest concerns is missing time with family, being gone, crazy busy seasons. I don't get the vibe that you would have, that you built it that way to be a volume shop. I feel like you probably even at that time were value based. But walk me through the kind of, was it volume? Was it value? Did you have a goal of being present with the family and all that? And how did you build that?
So I am so much smarter today than I was back then, because I've learned a lot and I've made a lot of mistakes and I think that's one reason I'm passionate about, helping this profession, because I made every mistake. I just let it grow without any game plan. There was no niche. There was no pricing I was terrible at. Underpriced everything. So it was probably a volume shop, and from that standpoint, what I did was, I didn't want everybody else to work crazy hours, so I did, and I was 7 days a week. I never missed a kids event. I would go. In fact, I coached basketball for my kids during tax season, so I would go to the game, and then I would go back to the office. I would go to a game, and I had 2 boys that were, we have 2 kids, 2 boys, and they were both playing, and so I might have 2 games in a day. So I may go back to the office in between. I may stay in the office till 2 in the morning. I'm there 7 days a week, and that's what actually was the impetus of me selling the practice, because I knew it was affecting the family. It was, my hours were, the kids were acting different during tax season. I'm like, I can't have this. This can't be. I can't have this affect my family.
Wow. Yeah. It's a lot. I can relate to that so much. Again, having seen it in in practice when you're working for someone. And honestly, I think it's even tougher on someone when it's something you've built. Right? Because if you're working somewhere and somebody is telling you, you get the F into the office on Saturday, I don't want to see you not in the office. Or as I was told directly, I want to see you in the seat, and not get up, and not even for lunch. I'm not even joking. This was verbatim. It was sick. I still got up and went to lunch. And then the moment I got up, and I'm not even joking you, the moment I got up, I would get an email saying, where are you? I mean, the stories are endless, but to the point, when you're told that and it's like, oh, well, I'm working here, so it's kind of like, oh, I got to do that, or you just get up. But when it's something you've built, it's so hard to even get the picture of how do you fix that. So I'm very empathetic. I understand exactly the feeling. I can imagine the kids being different, the family being dynamic, being different, and feeling like you just got to sell it and start over.
Yep.
That is tough.
And that's what happened. And looking back, I didn't have to. I mean, looking back, I could have done things. I mean, because now I talk about this all the time. Here's ways you can do this. Here's how you can work smarter. Here's how you can have a work-life balance. Here's how you can, work less, make more, be more efficient. All this. So I didn't have to sell it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I did, because that changed my whole perspective on things. And when we started Trimerit, that's when I really was intentional about the growth, and intentional about how we're treating people, and intentional about my own work balance. So that was where it really came into play.
So you sell this, you're from, may I ask how much you sold it for?
It was 1 times revenue.
1X?
Yep.
Okay. Paid out like a note, seller note?
5 years.
Okay.
Yep.
So you do that, you sell it. how long was there a period of time where you were just kind of like, all right, let me unwind, so to speak, think about the next move, sit there for a little bit, maybe, spend the time
Yeah.
with the kids and not with the firm. How long would that last?
Yeah, so there's a longer story to this, but I at the same time, I actually had another business too, which is a
Of
real
course you
estate
did.
development firm.
Of course you did.
Yeah, that I started in '03 with one of my clients. And so mainly I sold the firm because one, I couldn't do both. And two, I was already way too stretched thin
Yeah.
and the tax seasons were awful, where the real estate development, I had much more control over my time.
Yeah.
And it was fun. And accounting's fun too, but
Yeah.
it was a really unique situation. So January 1st of '06, I sold the accounting firm. May 18th of '06, my partner and I in the real estate development firm couldn't get along anymore. And so I said, all right, well, buy me out. And pretty much that's what happened. So May 18th of '06, I didn't have a job. And kind of enjoyed that. Took the summer off. And then by the time the kids went back to school, I decided, well, it wasn't even a decision. It's like, okay, I'm not independently wealthy.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be, because this real estate development I had been promised a lot,
Yeah.
ended up not. The buyout did not occur the way it was supposed to. But decided I have to go back to work, and that's how R&D tax credits literally found me. Was just when I started to search for what I needed to do next.
And so you started looking for a job, or did you start looking for that next business?
Yeah, well, so this is the what I had decided is like, okay, I've been working for myself forever, and
Yeah.
and I'm tired of that. I'm going to take a job, which I figured out pretty quickly. I'm not a very good employee.
That's
And
tough.
yeah, so I took a job, and within weeks, I realized that this wasn't going to work, and it wasn't. It could have worked. The
Yeah.
place I went to had a huge opportunity. I mean, they could have taken over the R&D tax credit world, I think, at the time, because it was a brand new incentive for the most part. It'd been around a while, but a lot of changes happened in the early 2000s. And
Yeah.
this firm I went to was just mismanaged. And within a month, I realized this isn't going to work. But I quit a few times, and they begged me to stay, and I stayed, and then I quit, and they begged me to stay, and then after about 6 months, I was like, sorry, no, I can't stay any longer, and didn't tell them what I was doing, but didn't take any of their tools or clients or anything, and left and started my own R&D tax credit firm, and yeah, that was,
Wow.
and boy, if they would have done it right, I mean, they had a huge opportunity, but they had 7 partners, and they all thought they were managing partner. Um,
Yeah. That's
and
such a common
yeah,
occurrence,
yep,
you know.
yep,
But truly, this is such a very fascinating story. So it found you. So you get the job. You discover R&D tax credits, and then you say, "I'm gonna go ahead and start my own R&D tax credit
yep.
firm." But before that, I already know what happened. You picked up the phone, or maybe or you came home, and you
Yes.
said, to your wife, "I got a crazy idea."
Yep. Yep.
And then she said, "Here go again." Very familiar with this.
Yeah.
And then you said that super supportive. Obviously, she was, and
Yep.
here you are. So what is the difference? So obviously, the traditional regular firm, pick up clients, do tax returns.
Yep.
Everybody knows recurring revenue. Everybody knows. Now you're switching gears. R&D also recurring to some extent. If
Yes.
if
It
you
should
do the
be.
study.
Yep.
What was the different things that you've had to kind of learn along the way, or how did you start the firm? Really, let's start there. How did you start the firm
Yep.
with that in mind, rather than what you've been used to for 15 years before
Right.
that?
Yep. So started it with, because I'm a CPA. I knew the tax end of things. I learned it over that 6 months, and still there was a lot to learn. But there was actually a book written on R&D tax credits at the time, which we read. But started it with Andy Lane, who's an engineer. And so we had a really good handle on both that, and there she is, by the way, just right past the camera right now. So I had mentioned to Andy that I was thinking of starting this, and we had just recently met, and he said I was thinking the same thing. He was at the other firm with me.
Okay.
And so I left about 3 months before he did, just to make sure this was viable. And then he came on. But it was a lot of learning was, well, one light bulb moment again was like, because my first firm, I was a generalist and thought that that's what a firm had to be. And then seeing that there was niching, I didn't even learn the word niche. And I know people will say niche, but I say niche.
Too.
All right. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, I can just concentrate on one thing and I can become an expert at this and I can share my knowledge and I can go educate on these things. And that was just a brand new world to me, but amazing. And I'm a huge proponent of niche. I think everybody should, as they grow, try to build a niche practice. So, but that was the one light bulb. The other was I had to learn how to business generate. So I had to learn sales, for lack of a better word. And what decided from day one is that we're not going to go to manufacturers and try to, bring them R&D tax credits. We're going to go to CPA firms and we're going to educate them on the R&D tax credits. And then we're going to build trust with them and then see if they'll send us to their clients. And there was a local firm that I did with from day one, the first day in business. I had told them that we were doing this, or I probably told them, a week beforehand that we officially started that we're doing this. And they said, yeah, we'd love to work with you.
Awesome.
Technically, the very first day of business, they sent me to one of their clients, explain R&D tax credits to their client. Walked out of that business with a $20,000 check because we used to take deposits.
Whoa.
I think we were calculating, we were estimating a $300,000 credit, which is probably what this one was. So, hey, we're going to take a $20,000 check to deposit so we can start doing all our work. And got home and I'm like, okay, this business might work. I mean,
yeah, that's one way to prove it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but that one to many, going to the CPA, and then them send us to their clients, building trust with the CPA firm. I should just say tax advisor because EAs, CPAs, whatever. It's the tax advisor and going to them. And then as we grew over the next 2 years, we went a step further and said, okay, a lot of our CPAs we're seeing are in these associations of CPAs. So let's try to get into those associations because if we get in there, then the word spreads that, yeah, Tri-Merit's a good firm to work with. And now instead of, one to many, we've got, many to many.
Yeah.
And so that's really how the growth happened is building a good reputation. You have to do things right. We have a model of bringing integrity to specialty tax by doing things the right way. And so if you do that, the word spreads, and especially in association, the word spreads fairly fast. It's still a long process to build their trust, but once you do, man, it goes pretty well. So that was the sales end of things, and how we're going to build this business was a new thing that I had to learn.
That's incredible. I very much echo that part of it. I really see, especially like going to the advisors and much of what we were talking about before about LinkedIn and my posting, and the reason for the posting is not to go direct to the consumer, but really to say, hey, this advisor, me, this person is doing something different. He's posting things, he's authentic, he's, has a personality and is entertaining to speak to, is fun and all that.
The Fun
Hey,
CPA.
I'd love to, exactly. I'd love to have my clients work with someone like that and be represented, because at the end of the day, the referrals that you give to your clients, or that, a CPA referring Tri-Merit, is a complete reflection of themselves. I cannot disconnect a referral that I made to my client from myself, and if that goes sour, I'm to blame. So that doing right by the clients, by the CPAs that you're working with, or tax professionals, whatever you want to call it, and then obviously doing right by their clients, it's such a smart approach, and I love the story, and it's awesome that you know you were able to get that first check right off the gate. $20,000 is no joke.
No.
So in comparison, you know, if you were to compare your approach and kind of like that you know 60,000 that you were able to secure yourself, kind of day one, how does that compare? Like, do you feel like it was easier with Tri-Merit, with focusing on the R&D? Was it a completely different mentality switch between the two?
Yeah, it was different, completely different. One, again, I found a passion. I love accounting, but I'm not an accountant. I'm a tax professional, so I got to concentrate just on tax.
Nice.
From that standpoint, it just was, and going to talk to the, again, I'll just use CPAs generically,
Yeah.
to CPAs. I mean, we talk the same language. So I'm just talking to somebody, I'm educating them on tax. We're talking tax. They understand, you know, they can't be an expert in R&D tax credits, but they understand how the tax code works. So I'm talking about this.
Yeah.
And there was just that connection for sure. But then, you know, from a sales standpoint, we got intentional about sales. It was me the first year.
Yeah.
And I think we did. I mean, honestly, I think we did about $700,000 in the first 12 months.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was there was a we saw this was going to work, and we really weren't planning on growing,
Yeah.
honestly, at the time. But then we're like, okay, well, we should bring in another engineer because, you know, Andy can't do all this himself. And then
Yeah.
when we brought in an engineer, then it was like, okay, well, we should bring in a business development person so that make sure that we have enough money to support this new engineer. And then it just kind of kept snowballing to where the fact that we're, you know, 75 people now. But the intentionality about sales, I think, is important because as tax professionals, as accountants, as CPAs, EAs,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call yourself, bookkeepers, we, I think, don't get too intentional about sales, like you said, which is fine. That's
Yeah.
fine. But if you really do want to grow a firm, we got intentional from the standpoint. We have, I mean, our business development team, you know, from people out in the field to support and all that is probably about 10 people now. We have
Wow.
5 people on our marketing team. You know, and so this is where we go out and we promote Tri-Merit and what we're doing, not just, you know, it's hey, this is, we're doing
Yeah.
good work. Here's why. Here's how we can support it. But this was something I never even thought about with my generalist firm is like bringing on a salesperson.
Yeah.
I never even would have thought of that, and so that was a big change.
How so? I mean, I know that we're talking about intentionality around the R&D, the niche, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
What would you advise, or how would you recommend someone get intentional about sales that's in my position,
Yeah.
or that's got a solo entrepreneur, you know, firm or something like that?
Yeah.
What would you say to them and get intentional about sales?
Yeah, I mean, you see people like Brandon Hall, and he's a niche practice, and he's intentional about sales just through social media marketing and that kind of work. But if you're passionate about the client base you're trying to attract, it's just going to show through because you're going to talk about it, and your face is going to light up. And even
Yeah.
if it's on social media, wherever it is, and I'm terrible at social media and that in general. Our marketing team's good at it, but if you're just concentrate on an industry that you're passionate about, I'm still of the mindset that the business will come because your passion will show through.
100%. I'm very much into that. I think being passionate, for me, I'm very passionate about the profession, moving it forward, making it fun, doing networking events that have literally cost me $10,000 out of pocket
Right.
because I don't know. I mean, we're talking offline about how it's, you know, pulling teeth and getting people to come and understand what you're doing and join their movement. And I feel like I'm like, I put together this one event. Now I'm going on attention, but I put together this one
good.
event, one of my very first one, you know, I put it together. It was at a little beach bar. It's sand. We're sitting on sand. There's fire pits. I belong to a boat club. So, you know, I had the owner of that boat club pull out a couple boats for us and just take people on little rides, 6 to 8 people on each boat.
Yeah.
And throughout the evening, people were going back and forth in groups, which, by the way, is the coolest, you know, way to really connect people because you're on a boat and you're just hanging out. You know,
Small group, yep.
That was my biggest focus of the networking events. But I'm like, this is gonna be amazing. I'm gonna have 100 people come into this thing. Like, And the expectation versus reality was kind of hilarious looking back at it. But, you know, and I keep doing them. You know what? To your point about passion, every single time I do one, I kid you not, so my wife again would come home and I'm like, I'm never doing this again. And then she's like, okay, you know, cool, like sounds great. And then fast forward a little bit, the itch comes back again, and I'm like, I'm gonna do a networking event. And she's like, okay, I thought you said that you were done with it. I'm like, nope, I guess I'm not. I'm doing it. So okay, so I plan it out. I love the planning part. I loved all that. I love when people actually show up and we're there.
Yep.
Boy, leading up to it is rough. And then thinking, and especially if I have like a sponsor too, because I'm very empathetic, obviously, towards making sure that they're taken care of.
Yes.
And so I'm like, who's coming to this person paying for nothing? You know what I mean? And it's like just challenging in that regard. You know, but that's to the back to the point about being passionate, and back to the point about, you know, really people see that. What does it translate to? You know, people ask me all the time, like, what are you doing these networking events for? You know, I'm like, honestly, not only has it not brought me any necessarily revenue, I have spent $10,000 doing them. Right. So if you think that this is me profiting, I can assure you I am not profiting on this stuff. It's just a passion thing.
Yeah. And community. You're hanging out with people you enjoy hanging out with, and you're promoting this profession, which I think you're doing awesome work. So I appreciate that.
I try. I want to the point of like going into Trimerit now, and as you're building that and having learned over 15 years with everything and you know, with the family and being there for them and the reasons that led you to have to sell it. From the start of Trimerit, where you focused on not repeating that again, was how did you build that large of a company intentionally focusing on not doing the same thing that you did the first time?
Yep. And we're having, yep. And we'll let's. Sorry, I'm gonna stop for a second. We were a little frozen there a little bit, but I know with Riverside we should be good. It won't be an issue. But I think I got your question. Okay. Editing people, I'm starting back up. And so yeah, there was intentionality about that. There was intentionality about the culture we wanted to create. We didn't have it written down, but we wanted people to be part of something that they felt like they were making a difference. We wanted people to be partners of something that they enjoyed. Over the years, we've gotten more intentional. In fact, I've written a culture code, which is kind of like our promise to our employees and what we set out to do for them. And so that was a big deal, but there was still a lot of learning in growing Trimerit. One of the biggest lessons I learned is, you were kind of alluding this to earlier, is I started Trimerit, therefore I'm the managing partner of Trimerit, and that should be my role just because I'm a CPA and we're dealing with taxes. And my mind wasn't open to the fact that that's not my role, because I am not a process, procedure, KPI, all that kind of stuff. My wife's getting a lot of video time today on this podcast. So
it's all good.
And so now everybody can see who we were talking about.
That's right.
Are we putting video out on this?
Yep, it'll be video.
Right.
Yep.
So she could see who I ran everything past.
The star.
Exactly. She is the star. And so I completely forgot where I was now. My role.
Yes.
And it took me, I was managing partner for the first 10 years. That is not what I should be doing. It took me, it took me 30 years to realize, even though I start businesses, I don't have to be the one managing those businesses, because I am terrible at the process, procedure. Those things. I was on a call before you and I got on. We were talking about writing new procedures for this organization I'm part of, Accounting Cornerstone Foundation, where we give out scholarships. And I'm like, I can't. My mind was just shutting down. I can't. Procedures, that doesn't compute with me. And so when I finally kind of had an aha moment there, which was about a couple year span of the aha moment, I gave up managing partner role, and Andy, who started Trimerit with me, took over that, and he was built to manage a firm. He is an engineer with the process and procedures and KPIs and all of these things that I ignore.
Yeah.
And when you found that, then I started getting passionate about, okay, you know what? Everybody should find what their role truly is, because if we hire somebody in a project management role, maybe that's not really where their passion lies. So let's try to help people find where their passion really lies. And we have leaned into that. We have had many people change roles throughout the years in Tri-Merit for the better. For the better for them and for the better for us, because they get into a role that they really enjoy. And so it took me really going through that metamorphosis from managing partner to whatever I do today, which is, I don't know, I'm the,
who knows?
yeah, exactly. I'm the face of the company. I think I have a title. I always forget it. I think it's like corporate promoter. I think that's officially what it is, which is kind of boring. We got to come up with a new one.
It sounds kind of cool, actually. I'm into that.
Like it?
Yeah, I like it because it's, corporate promoter. To me, I just think of like club promoter.
Yeah.
I feel like a little like a hype guy. Like the fun, bring in the fun. Man, this is the fun promoter. That's what you are.
Well, so that's funny that you said that, because Andy called me last week, because we 24 was a little rougher year for us. We haven't had a rough year in 24, and we kind of knew it was going to be. And we had to let go of a couple people. We've hired a bunch new ones now at the end of the year. And so Andy does our State of the Union address at the beginning of each year. We just talk about what happened and what's going to happen. And he called me and said, "Hey, I want to you say something about making sure it's fun here." I said, "Well, let's just say not that everyone away, but let's just say bring back the fun." And then I said, "Oh, that's like bring back the funk, isn't it?" And I think that's what it is. So he actually put bring back the fun and then a K in parentheses is our motto for 2025. We want to bring back the fun. And so we're going to make sure that we concentrate on
I love it.
Getting together in person more often and having building relationships and just having a good time. So yes, that's going to be important 2025 for us.
I love it. I think it's so important. I think there's so many things you touched on here, and I think we can go like I told you that we were targeting under 40, but I knew this was not possible with you, and
I didn't think it was going to happen.
And I'm glad that we're doing that, because I think there's so much value to this. But what I take away from Tri-Merit, from your approach, is that it's people first, right? It's people first, because at the end of the day, I was just listening to this book today, the Simon Sinek one about Start With Why, it's called.
Okay. Yep.
With your why. And the whole point there, the conversation is, literally today it was talking about it. You focus on your employees first, because happy employees means happy customers, means more referrals, means the amount of times that I've been told you work for the client, and they're the ones, verbatim, they're the ones paying your salary, so get to it, even though the client was a complete a-hole.
Yep.
And and I wanted nothing to do with them. That focus that you have, again, drives culture, drives so much of the things that we've talked about so far. That I just think that it's such a huge part in public accounting that we're missing on as a profession, and that's why people are leaving.
Yeah, and I do love that Start With Why. I think that's what they call it with Simon Sinek. I love that book, but I love The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. A great book. So much things I've taken out of there when I'm talking about culture in the firms, and he does a great job. I'd love to get him to speak at our conference someday, but I don't think I can afford his $250,000 speaking fee. So
it'll be similar to my experiences, where just conference just ends up costing you a whole ton. But you know what? It will be cool, because I think it's so relatable. It's very relatable to what we do.
Yep.
But since you brought up the conference, I was going to bring it up too, and we can kind of maybe start winding down after that one. But
we're never going to stop.
No, you're right. I'm going to probably have to come back, or maybe but bridging the gap. I plan on being there in Colorado, right? That's what it's going to be this.
Yes,
this
it'll
year?
be July 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Half day on the 24th, so 2.5 days just in Denver. Bridging the gap.
So tell me, how did that start? How did you desiring to do a conference start?
You got to know not to ask me questions, because I'll keep going on.
It's all right. That's where I'm going with this. Don't worry. I have a plan. But I do want to hear about the conference.
Yeah, so it was funny in about 2019, I think.
Yeah.
I was walking around, we actually recently moved, my wife and I, first time
Mm.
in 30 years, but our old house, we backed up to a park and there was a nice trail to walk around. So I was
Mm.
walking around the trail and I just had this seems to be a show about aha moments. I had an
Yeah.
aha moment and I'm sure I went to my wife right after this, but I'm walking around the park and there was two different things running in my head. I'm like, we should start a conference. But then I was also like, well, should we start an association too? And so these things were kind of going together, and I kind of landed on, no, in reality, a conference would be good. And so I just started thinking about doing this, developing a conference for the profession. And
Mm.
then this was 19, and then, in 20, the pandemic hit.
Yep.
And what we ended up doing in 20 and 21 was we did host a virtual conference. So we ended up doing it right away. And I think we called it the Unique CPA virtual conference, which is my podcast, the Unique CPA. Um, but then, did 2 of the years of that. And then 2022 came, and, 21, we were getting out and about again. 22, we were really getting out and about. And decided to do a live podcast. I'm a partner in a bar in Chicago and wanted to do it from my bar in Chicago. And we ended up deciding, hey, let's invite, our main, referral partners, and we'll pay for everything that get them to come into this live podcast and just have a good time and use it for marketing as well. And I brought in a lot of speakers, people that I'd recently met, people that you have met as well, that we had such a great time. And it was kind of like a little teeny one-day mini conference. We had 6 guests in there and rotated people in and talked for 2 hours of a live. We actually broadcast live from the bar, and then left that and started thinking about the next year's virtual conference again. I'm like, no, we can't do virtual anymore. I'm sick of virtual. Everybody's sick of virtual. Can we actually put together a real live conference? And so we ended up having it in August of 23, and I think we didn't start planning until about March, which is a really short time frame to plan. But it was just this whole brainstorm moment, and I don't see risk or anything, and it's just like, all right, let's do this.
Awesome.
So we did the first year. It was great. Got tons of great, reviews on social media, and even in our professional magazines had put some write-ups on it and that. And as you said earlier, the money you lose on these things, the money we lost on this was insane. I mean, it was. I mean, we're not talking tens of thousands. We're talking more. But everybody bought into it internally, and so we ran year 2. That loss came down quite a bit, but the loss was still there. And now year 3, we're hoping to break even. We dropped the registration fee from $1,500 last year to $799 as early bird right now, and we really want to, because our sponsors, exhibitors really stepped up for us.
Yeah.
And so we're looking to have this, but I didn't even say what it was. So the bottom line is the conference is all called Bridging the Gap. It's really about bridging the gap between bad in the profession and good in the profession.
I love it.
Mental health and burnout to work-life balance. But it also means bridging the gap between 2 communities that I'm really entrenched with. And those are the top 400 CPA firms. That's where I really started in this profession. And the last 5 years, I've really become entrenched with this modern startup, innovative firm. And they both do things that are so cool, and I think they can learn from each other. So one of the original ideas was I want to bridge the gap between these 2 communities as well. And we're really intentionally trying to do that more this year. We've done it some. But this year we want to try to get to a 50-50 attendance level on it. And so that's part of it.
Awesome.
Yep.
No, that's great. I think that there's a lot of value to be had. I'm going to be there. So I just got to figure out my timing. My brother just recently moved out there. So it works out well. So
Well,
I'll
that's our
be
number one marketing. We're just going to take that clip right there,
there. You
and
go.
we're going to say Yuri's going to be there. Everybody's got to be there.
Yep. That's it. The whole, yeah, all of
Nice.
LinkedIn is going to be there because of me. Yeah,
Oh,
but
believe
no,
me, you're a
that's,
draw.
I hope so. But yeah, it'll be really awesome. I would love to be out there. I think it'll be something cool and unique to be part of. And I think what I want to leave it with, and I had one last question for you. And during this whole conversation, we talked about a lot of things. We covered a lot of things, but I think where the biggest value driver is for me with everything we've spoken to is I want to focus on the person that we kind of alluded to before, that unhappy person who's in the profession 10, 15 years and doing things the way they've been done, taking some abuse from some of the, old school partners, wants to do something different, but just doesn't know how. What would your advice to them be? What would you tell them to help them
Yep.
manage that? Because it's tough.
It's tough, and most people aren't going to be like me and just do that,
Yeah.
walk in one day and quit. And so what I tell people is, don't take it. Don't say have this mindset. This is how it has to be. And you might not be able to change everything right away. You might not even be able to change the firm much at all, but you can change yourself and make incremental changes. Start to for yourself. Even if someone's going to get annoyed with you, take a little more break. Even if you want to hide it, sit at your computer and meditate for 10 minutes during the day because your mind will get fresh. Start to concentrate on the things you love doing. And this is one thing I want everybody in our firm to do, and I want everybody to look at. But it's look at your passions and look at what you're good at and what you love to do, and try to make that where you spend most of your time. And I actually talked to our company, everybody. We had a whole firm meeting in November, and I said, I'm going to do this, and I really want everybody to do this. And this is based on EOS has this, and Yuri, I told you, ask me a question, I'll go on. But this is, I think, important.
Very.
EOS has a version of this. I know there's plenty of other versions, but this is a version I learned from a friend of mine, Sean Duncan, which many people may know Sean. Great guy. Sean did a webinar with me, and he talked about what he did for himself, and I want to do this with everybody in our company, is put together a spreadsheet of all the tasks you work on. And in the next 4 columns, put love it, hate it, good at it, bad at it. And then check one of those first 2 or one of the second 2 for each thing. And then you have a list of things you love and the things you're good at. And that's where you got to start to concentrate your time on and make incremental changes. It's not going to be an immediate change, but depending where you're at, let's say at a firm, if you're a leader in a firm, you can do this with everybody you work with. Look at the things that you hate and you're bad at. And I know people aren't going to want to do it because they're not going to want to say they hate something. They're not going to want to say they're bad at something because they're going to afraid the leadership is going to get on them. So leadership has to be the ones to do this first, to be vulnerable. But when you do that, and let's say you're in a firm of 50 people, you're going to have people that love and are good at things that you hate and are bad at. So why do you keep doing those when someone else really has a passion for that? So as an individual, yes, you can't do that for the whole firm, but as an individual, you can start to look at the things you like and just talk to your manager and say, hey, I want to spend some more time in this area. I really like working on these clients. Do you mind if I even try to generate more revenue with more clients that are in the restaurant industry or whatever you enjoy? So do a self-assessment. Are you in the right role? Like I did. But you can do this with the love it, good at it, bad at it, hate it. And at least you can start to make little teeny incremental changes. And once you do that, I think you're going to find a lot more happiness.
I love it. I think that that's such a good exercise. And I think
you love it and you're good at it?
Yeah, I love it and I'm good at it. Yes. I think that our profession, unfortunately, with a lot of the folks that I've described, that I wanted this little part to be spoken to, oftentimes we lose that passion. We don't even know what it is anymore because we've been doing the same stuff and been miserable and unhappy for so many years. And I love what you said, to do that, be mechanical about it, take a little break, go walk outside, even if somebody's upset that you left your desk. Do something for yourself. And, Brandy, this has really been a great episode that, again, I feel like we could go for another 8 hours talking about this. And I really, really think that this is going to hopefully bring a lot of value to people. Appreciate you coming through on the show. Thank you so much for everything that you do for the profession. And do you have any, last remarks or anything you want to leave with? Where can people find you? End us with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, well, no, Yuri, thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I'm sorry we blew past our time.
It's all good.
I really appreciate it. And I just, again, just to reiterate what we just said, make incremental changes, find your passion. I feel, and maybe this sounds corny, I don't know, but I feel like I live at the intersection of my passion and my skills, and I want everybody to live there. Not at my intersection, at their own intersection.
Yeah.
Because it's a beautiful place to live. So yeah, for me, I mean, you can LinkedIn's a good spot. I'm on LinkedIn, marketing more so puts things out on LinkedIn with me. But you can connect with me there. Our website has information about me too, try-merit.com. And those are probably the best places to see what's going on and connect. I like connecting with people. I like meeting new people because people are amazing.
That is true. Well, thank you again. I'll see you at Bridging the Gap here in July. I'm looking forward to it a lot. Looking forward to the conference. And thank you a lot. Thanks again for everything that you do. I will catch you on the next one.